Welcome to BeFM Drama, where we turn great works of English literature into gripping radio. I'm your host, Joshua Cornwell, and on today's episode we're bringing you part 4 in a 5-part adaptation of The Missing Three-Quarter, a classic Sherlock Holmes mystery from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The great detective Sherlock Holmes has been hired by Mr. Cyril Overton of Trinity College, Cambridge, to find Godfrey Staunton, a star rugby player in the three-quarter position and sole heir of the wealthy nobleman Lord Mount James, who has disappeared from his hotel room on the eve of a vital game with rival Oxford. The investigation into the young man's disappearance has now brought Holmes and Watson to Cambridge and to Dr. Leslie Armstrong, a close friend of Staunton's, to whom the athlete addressed an impassioned telegram on the night of his disappearance. Armstrong believes that Holmes has been hired to some ill purpose by Staunton's disreputable uncle, the miserly Lord Mount James, and is now doing everything in his power to prevent the great detective from learning the truth about his friend's disappearance. As we rejoin the story in part 4, Holmes prepares to lock horns with this worthy adversary. The few inquiries Holmes needed to tend to apparently proved to be more complicated than he expected, for my friend did not return to the inn until nearly 9 o'clock that evening. He was pale and dejected, stained with dust, and exhausted with hunger and fatigue. A cold supper was ready upon the table, and when his needs were satisfied and his pipe alight, he was ready to take that half-comic and wholly philosophic view which was natural to him when his affairs were going awry. The sound of carriage wheels caused him to rise and glance out of the window. A brougham and a pair of grey horses, under the glare of a gas lamp, stood before the doctor's door.
He's been out 3 hours. Started at 6:30, and here it is back again. That gives a radius of 10 or 12 miles, and he does it once, sometimes twice a day.
No unusual thing for a doctor in practice.
But Armstrong is not really a doctor in practice. He is a lecturer and a consultant, but he does not care for general practice, which distracts him from his literary work. Why then does he make these long journeys, which must be exceedingly irksome to him? And who is it that he visits?
His coachman.
My dear Watson, can you doubt that it was to him that I first applied? I do not know whether it came from his own innate depravity or from the promptings of his master, but he was rude enough to set a dog at me. Neither dog nor man liked the look of my stick, however, and the matter fell through. Relations were strained after that, and further inquiries out of the question. All that I have learned I got from a friendly native in the yard of our own inn. It was he who told me of the doctor's habits and of his daily journey. At that instant I gave point to his words. The carriage came round to the door.
Could you not follow it?
Excellent, Watson. You are scintillating this evening. The idea did cross my mind. There is, as you may have observed, a bicycle shop next to our inn. Into this I rushed, engaged a bicycle, and was able to get started before the carriage was quite out of sight. I rapidly overtook it, and then, keeping at a discreet distance of 100 yards or so, I followed its lights until we were clear of the town. We had got well into the country road when a somewhat mortifying incident occurred. The carriage stopped. The doctor got out, walked swiftly back to where I had also halted, and told me in an excellent sardonic fashion that he feared the road was narrow, and that he hoped his carriage did not impede the passage of my bicycle. Nothing could have been more admirable than his way of putting it. I at once rode past the carriage, and, keeping to the main road, went on for a few miles, and then halted in a convenient place to see if the carriage passed. There was no sign of it, however, and so it became evident that it had turned down one of the several side roads which I had observed. I rode back, but again saw nothing of the carriage, and now, as you perceive, it has returned to me. Of course, I had at the outset no particular reason to connect these journeys with the disappearance of Godfrey Staunton, and was only inclined to investigate them on the general grounds that everything which involves Dr. Armstrong is at present of interest to us. But now that I find he keeps such a keen lookout upon anyone who might follow him on his excursions, the affair appears more important, and I shall not be satisfied until I have made the matter clear.
We can follow him tomorrow.
Can we? It is not so easy as you think. You are not familiar with the Cambridgeshire scenery, are you? It does not lend itself to concealment. All of this country that I passed over tonight is as flat and clean as the palm of your hand, and the man we are following is no fool, as he very clearly showed tonight. I have wired Overton. He'll let us know of any fresh London developments, and in the meantime we'll concentrate our attention on Dr. Armstrong, whose name the obliging young clerk at the telegraph office allowed me to read upon Staunton's message slip. Yes, the doctor knows where the young man is, to that I'll swear, and if he knows, then it will be our own fault if we cannot manage to know as well.
And yet the next day brought us no nearer to the solution of the mystery. A note was handed in after breakfast, which Holmes passed across to me with a smile. It read thusly: "Sir, I can assure you that you are wasting your time in dogging my movements. I have, as you discovered last night, a window in the back of my carriage, and if you desire a 20-mile ride which will lead you to the spot from which you started, you have only to follow me. Meanwhile, I can inform you that no spying upon me can in any way help Mr. Godfrey Staunton, and I am convinced that the best service you could do to that gentleman is to return at once to London and to report to your employer that you are unable to trace him. Your time in Cambridge will certainly be wasted. Yours faithfully, Leslie Armstrong."
An outspoken and honest antagonist is the doctor. Well, well, he excites my curiosity, and I must really know before I leave him.
His carriage is at the door now. There he is, stepping into it. I saw him glance up at our window as he did so. Suppose I try my luck upon the bicycle?
No, no, my dear Watson. With all respect for your natural acumen, I do not think that you are quite the match for the worthy doctor. I think that possibly I can attain our end by some independent explorations of my own. I'm afraid that I must leave you to your own devices, as the appearance of two inquiring strangers upon a sleepy countryside might excite more gossip than I care for. No doubt you will find some sights to amuse you in this venerable city, and I hope to bring back a more favourable report to you before evening.
Once more, however, my friend was destined to be disappointed. He came back at night weary and unsuccessful.
I've had a blank day, Watson. Having got the doctor's general direction, I spent the day in visiting all the villages upon that side of Cambridge and comparing notes with publicans and other local news agencies. I have covered some ground. Chesterton, Histon, Waterbeach, and Oakington have each been explored, and have each proved disappointing. The daily appearance of a brougham and pair could hardly have been overlooked in such sleepy hollows. The doctor is scored once more. Is there a telegram for me?
Yes, I opened it. Here it is. Ask for Pompeii from Jeremy Dixon, Trinity College. I don't understand it.
Oh, it's clear enough. It's from our friend Overton, and is in answer to a question from me. I'll just send round a note to Mr. Jeremy Dixon, and then I have no doubt that our luck will turn. By the way, is there any news of the match?
Yes, the local evening paper had an excellent account in its last edition. Oxford won by a goal and 2 tries. The last sentence of the description says, "The defeat of the Light Blues may be entirely attributed to the unfortunate absence of the crack international Godfrey Staunton, whose want was felt at every instant of the game. The lack of combination in the three-quarter line and their weakness both in attack and defense more than neutralize the efforts of a heavy and hard-working pack."
Then our friend Overton's forebodings have been justified. Personally, I am in agreement with Dr. Armstrong, and football does not come within my horizon. Early to bed tonight, Watson, for I foresee that tomorrow may be an eventful day.
I was horrified by my first glimpse of Holmes next morning, for he sat by the fire holding his tiny hypodermic syringe. I associated that instrument with the single weakness of his nature, and I feared the worst when I saw it glittering in his hand. He laughed at my expression of dismay and laid it upon the table.
"Oh, no, no, my dear fellow, there is no cause for alarm. It is not upon this occasion the instrument of evil, but will rather prove to be the key which will unlock our mystery. On this syringe I based all of my hopes. I have just returned from a small scouting expedition, and everything is favourable. Eat a good breakfast, Watson, for I propose to get upon Dr. Armstrong's trail today, and once on it I will not stop for rest or food until I run him to his burrow."
In that case we had best carry our breakfast with us, for he is making an early start. His carriage is at his door.
Never mind, let him go. He will be clever if he can drive where I cannot follow him. When you have finished, come downstairs with me, and I will introduce you to a detective who is a very eminent specialist in the work that lies before us."
Who is this eminent new specialist that Holmes has recruited for his investigation, and what possible purpose could the detective have with a hypodermic syringe? Find out tomorrow evening here on BeFM Drama as we bring you the fascinating final installment in our adaptation of The Missing Three-Quarter, as Holmes runs his quarry to the ground at last and uncovers the final truth.